So I want you to think about, that one project you've just been putting off, like maybe for months,
Oh, yeah. Everyone has one.
right? Or wow, maybe even years. It's like the novel that's just gathering dust on your hard drive, or or that business idea you keep talking about at parties.
Yeah, or the fitness routine that always starts, next
Like
Monday.
exactly, always next Monday. But what if the ultimate like definitive blueprint to finally break that paralysis to just get it done takes exactly 10 words?
10 words?
Yeah. No complex spreadsheets, like
Yeah.
no multi-year longitudinal studies, no 500-page self-help manuals, just
Yeah.
10 words.
Well, it's funny because we are so heavily conditioned to believe that life-changing advice, it requires volume, right?
Oh, totally.
If a concept is going to fundamentally alter our behavior, we just assume it has to be dense, academic, and, like, physically heavy.
Right, like a massive textbook.
Exactly. We assume a profoundly small footprint cannot possibly contain, a massive amount of meaning.
Which brings us to our mission today. So, welcome to your deep dive. We have a profoundly fascinating text tailored entirely for you today because you sent us a source that, honestly, it completely shatters that expectation of volume.
It really does. It acts like, well, like a linguistic black hole, I'd
That
say.
black hole, yeah,
Yeah, because the space it takes up is almost non-existent, but the gravitational pull of the psychology inside it is just immense.
it is. So, I'm going to read the entire text right now straight up front so we have it sort of echoing in the room with us.
Let's hear it.
The title is The Architecture of Immediate Action, and the excerpt beneath it just reads, 1 year from now, you'll wish you started today.
Wow. I mean, it leaves the mind nowhere to hide.
Nowhere.
There's no filler. There's no rambling anecdotes, no fluff to distract you from the raw, exposed nerve of the concept itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading it is one thing, right? But digesting how it manipulates our sense of time and motivation is another thing entirely. There is a very deliberate collision happening right at the top in that title, The Architecture of Immediate Action.
Yes, that pairing of words.
We really need to pull those two ideas apart because they actively fight each other, don't they?
They do. The tension is brilliant because if you consider the psychological weight of the word architecture, it implies systematic, rigid anticipation.
Right. It's slow.
Very slow. You draft blueprints, you calculate load-bearing walls, you secure permits. It is a process explicitly designed to eliminate surprises before a single physical object is actually built.
But wait, I mean, if you build a house without a blueprint, it collapses, right?
Usually, yeah.
So how is attaching the phrase immediate action to architecture not just a recipe for a catastrophic mess? Like, you can't just start pouring concrete randomly and hope a living room appears.
No, you definitely can't.
So why pair a word that means, careful, flawless preparation with a phrase that implies impulsive spontaneity? Are we just like building the airplane while flying it?
That's a great way to put it. And it's because the author is targeting a very specific cognitive trap we all fall into. Look, in physical engineering like building a skyscraper, constructing a bridge, you absolutely need that flawless preparation.
Sure, stakes are too high.
Right. The problem arises when we apply the rules of physical engineering to our personal, creative, or, professional lives.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Yeah, we misuse the concept of architecture as this sophisticated stalling tactic.
Oh, wow. So we convince ourselves that we are being responsible builders when really we're just terrified of making a mistake.
Exactly. We disguise procrastination as preparation.
Guilty as charged.
Right.
Oh,
And think about how often people delay a goal by engaging in activities that feel productive but carry absolutely zero risk.
oh, like buying the perfect pair of running shoes.
Yes. Buying the shoes, researching optimal heart rates for 3 weeks on the internet, instead of just going outside and jogging for 10 minutes.
Or like designing a beautiful logo for a business that doesn't even have a single product to sell yet.
So, precisely.
Or organizing your writing desk, and building this complex, color-coded outlining system in a notebook instead of actually typing a single messy paragraph.
Yes, the preparation feels like work,
It exhausts you, like work.
but it doesn't move the needle an inch.
Not one bit.
So the title completely redefines how we view the timeline of progress. The architecture of immediate action suggests that taking a blind, imperfect step actually creates the structure.
Wait, really? The step itself creates it.
Yes, you don't build the blueprint to take the step. The step draws the blueprint.
Oh man, so it's like you are mapping the terrain by walking it.
That is exactly it. The moment you take immediate action, you generate momentum, but more importantly, you generate real-world feedback.
Right, because now you're actually doing it.
Yeah, you encounter actual obstacles instead of theoretical ones.
Yeah.
Because if you just sit in a room trying to anticipate every possible problem you might face over the next year,
You'll just freak yourself out.
you become completely paralyzed by phantom threats.
Yeah.
But if you take immediate action, you only have to deal with the obstacle directly in front of you. The building designs itself as you lay the bricks.
But, okay, if mapping the terrain by walking it is so effective, why are we so universally terrified of taking that first clumsy step?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. And I think that brings us to the psychological time travel in the main text. The author doesn't even bother addressing our current state of mind.
No, they skip it entirely.
They immediately bypass it with just 4 words. 1 year from now.
What's fascinating here is the sheer necessity of that forced mental time jump. The author has to rip you out of the present moment because, honestly, the present moment is a logistical nightmare.
The present is where all the friction lives. I mean, if I sit here right now and think about starting a massive new endeavor today, my brain immediately rebels. Like, I can give you a dozen incredibly persuasive reasons why today is just a terrible day to start.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
Like, I didn't sleep well last night. I have a headache. There are emails I have to answer. The weather is bad.
The dog needs to be walked.
Exactly. The friction of the present is messy, it's exhausting, and it is acutely painful.
It is. And biologically, we are actually wired to conserve energy.
Right. Evolutionary survival.
Exactly. When you look at an immediate difficult action, your brain registers the acute discomfort of the effort required right now. Meanwhile, the reward for that effort is completely abstract and locked away in the distant future.
So it just feels like a bad deal.
It is a terrible trade-off from an evolutionary standpoint. Psychologically, we are masters at rationalizing delay when we only look at the immediate context,
We say, I will be more rested tomorrow. Tomorrow is a better environment for the architecture.
which is a complete illusion. Tomorrow will have its own headaches, its own emails, its own bad weather. So by starting the sentence with 1 year from now, the text effectively bypasses all of those present-day excuses.
Just wipes them out.
It takes your fatigue, your minor inconveniences, your hesitation, and it renders them mathematically insignificant. It drops you into a vantage point where today's friction is completely invisible.
Okay, but let me challenge the mechanics of that time jump for a second.
Sure.
Because I'm thinking, why exactly 365 days? If the goal is just to get away from the friction of today, isn't a year a bit arbitrary? Like, why not say, next week you'll wish you started today? Or pull way back and say a decade from now?
That's a really good point. Let's break down the cognitive impacts of those alternatives, because the 1 year time frame is actually surgically precise.
Really?
Yeah. If the text said 1 week from now, you'll wish you started today, the emotional stakes are virtually non-existent.
Oh, I guess that's true.
A week is not enough time to imagine significant, life-altering progress.
Right. Like, if I delay starting my novel for a week, I've missed out on writing maybe 1 or 2 rough chapters. I mean, I can live with that. The regret doesn't sting enough to overcome the friction of today.
Exactly. The contrast is just too small. Now, let's apply the other extreme. 10 years from now, you'll wish you started today. On the surface, that sounds incredibly dramatic and weighty.
It does. But it also feels like science fiction.
Yes.
10 years is so far away, I can't even picture what my life will look like.
You can't.
Yeah.
Psychologically, when we attempt to project ourselves a full decade into the future, the brain actually struggles to maintain continuity of identity.
Wait, what does that mean?
It means we actually process that distant future self as a stranger. We lack visceral empathy for the person we will be in 10 years because they are completely disconnected from our current reality.
That is wild.
It is.
Yeah.
They might live in a different city, have a different career, be surrounded by completely different people. And because we view them as a stranger, we don't deeply care about burdening them with our present-day procrastination.
We literally don't care enough about our 10-year-older self to feel the pain of letting them down. They're just someone else's problem.
Someone else's problem entirely. But 1 year hits the absolute cognitive sweet spot. It solves both of those problems.
How so?
First, a year is long enough that massive compounding progress can occur. You can transform your physical health in a year. You can write an entire book in a year. You can get a business off the ground. The potential delta between where you are now and where you could be is staggering.
And yet it's close enough that it still feels intimately like you.
Exactly. It is next summer. It is next winter. You can visualize the season. You can picture the clothes you'll be wearing. You know exactly how old you will be. The connection to that future self is immediate and visceral.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When you mention that massive compounding progress over a year, my mind immediately maps this onto the concept of compound interest in finance.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right. Because if you put money into an investment account, it compounds, and over time, the growth becomes exponential. The growth isn't just a straight line, it accelerates because the new growth builds on top of the old growth.
And that financial mechanism translates perfectly to behavioral psychology and human effort.
Exactly. The action you take today compounds over those 365 days. Like day one might just be a clumsy, terrible first draft. It might just be 10 minutes of exercise. It seems totally insignificant.
Sure, it feels small.
But day two builds directly on the tiny architecture of day one. By day 60, the results are multiplying. By day 365, the result is exponential.
Yes.
If you push day one to tomorrow, you aren't just losing one single day of work. You are losing the entire compounding effect that specific day would have generated over the course of the next year.
You are stealing the foundation from every subsequent day.
Which brings us to the actual emotional payload of the source, the mechanism it uses to enforce all this theory. You'll wish you started today.
That's a heavy hitter.
I have to be honest, I read that and my chest tightens.
Good.
But wait, does this quote just weaponize anxiety? Like, is relying on future regret actually a healthy, sustainable way to motivate ourselves? It feels like it could easily push someone from procrastination straight into a guilt-ridden paralysis.
That tightening your chest is the intended mechanism working perfectly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text is deliberately employing a psychological lever known as anticipated regret.
Anticipated regret.
It is a sharp, potent tool, and while it might initially feel like weaponized anxiety, it is actually designed to cut through the haze of our own excuses.
But how does feeling guilty about the future clarify anything today? Usually, regret is this heavy, toxic thing we spend enormous amounts of energy trying to avoid thinking about.
Which is exactly why forcing it into the light is so effective. Look closely at the specific vocabulary the author chose. Notice what the text doesn't say.
Okay, what doesn't it say?
It doesn't say 1 year from now, you wish you had succeeded. It doesn't say 1 year from now, you'll be glad you finished. It zeroes in entirely on the solitary act of starting.
Oh. It completely divorces the action from the outcome.
Yes.
You'll wish you started, not you'll wish you had become a millionaire or published a bestseller.
Exactly. It removes the crushing pressure of perfectionism. The regret it is forcing you to anticipate isn't the regret of failing a massive endeavor. It is the distinct, hollow regret of standing completely still. It contrasts two very different types of pain.
The pain of starting versus the pain of stagnation.
Yes, starting is undeniably uncomfortable. It requires breaking inertia. It requires the vulnerability of knowing your first attempt will probably be bad.
Always bad.
Always. That is an acute, sharp discomfort. But the alternative stagnation is a dull, chronic, suffocating ache.
That's a great way to describe it.
The text acts as a simulator. It takes you 365 days into the future, lets you vividly feel the heavy, lingering disappointment of an empty calendar, of knowing you possessed the time and simply squandered it, and then it snaps you back to the present moment.
It snaps you back and says, look, you haven't actually wasted it yet. You still have the power to change this. Today is still right in front of you.
It isolates today as the point of absolute maximum leverage. Tomorrow is an illusion where we send all our good intentions to quietly fade away.
Wow, yeah.
Today is the only tangible space where the architecture of immediate action can actually be built. When you properly contextualize that future regret, it stops paralyzing you.
Because it shifts the perspective.
Exactly. It makes the sharp discomfort of starting today feel incredibly small, almost trivial compared to the massive weight of wishing you had started a year from now.
It's like an empty lot is comfortable, right? Sure is no noise, there is no dust, no one is sweating, no heavy lifting is happening. But a year later, it is still just an empty lot.
Still empty.
The noise and the dust of immediate action, the bad first drafts, the clumsy workouts, the confusing business meetings, those are just the sounds of a future actually being built.
I love that. The discomfort of the process is the architecture taking shape.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener, navigating your own delayed projects and aspirations? We have taken a pretty meticulous journey through a source that is, let's face it, literally shorter than a text message.
It is.
But the synthesis of this deep dive is crystalline. The architecture of immediate action isn't about eradicating all your doubts. It is not about possessing a flawless, color-coded blueprint for the next 12 months before you allow yourself to begin.
Not at all. The blueprint for your future is drawn by the simple, clumsy, immediate actions you refuse to put off.
The action itself is the foundation.
Sure.
It is about projecting yourself to that point exactly 365 days from today. Feeling the reality of that future version of yourself, realizing they are not a stranger, but just you, waiting for the results of today's choices.
That's the core of it.
The greatest gift you can hand them isn't a guaranteed perfect outcome. It is simply the courage to have broken the inertia, to have laid the first imperfect brick.
This raises an important, slightly daunting question to consider long after we wrap up here.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if you do take that immediate action today, when that exact 1 year from now finally arrives, and you find yourself standing in the future, looking back at the structure you managed to build,
Yeah.
what new today will you be wishing you had started on?
Oh, wow.
Does the architecture of action ever actually reach a point of completion, or does the timeline just continuously evolve, demanding a new, courageous, immediate action every single day of your life?
The horizon just keeps moving, doesn't it? And the building never truly stops. The gravitational pull of those 10 words just keeps dragging you forward into the next version of yourself.
It really does.
Well, thank you for sharing such a brilliantly dense, provocative piece of text. Go out there, face the friction of the present moment, lay that first rock, and take your immediate action. We will catch you on the next deep dive.